I guess there's nothing like a Borderlands franchise. The looter shooter that is very focused on a loot and on a shooting. I know it sounded weird, but yeah, I will try to explain what I mean in this video. And as you understood, in this video, we're going to be discussing Borderlands 3 and whether it is worth it to buy right now, few years after its release. So without further ado, let's get it started. As always, I'm going to be giving you the answer right away to not spend any more of your time than you need. And the answer is this. Yes, Borderlands 3 is now absolutely worth it if you have played any of the previous Borderlands games, and if not, it's still worth it, I guess. But don't go and rush buying this game right now, because there are some little caveats that you need to know. And we're going to be discussing that in this video. So let's discuss Borderlands 3. So what is Borderlands 3? If you have played any of the previous Borderlands games, this game is almost exactly the same thing, but more and bigger and, well, in many cases better, in some cases not so much. The graphical style of this game is exactly the same, and the shooting mechanics is almost exactly the same, and a lot of things are almost exactly the same. But what's already great doesn't need improvement, and Borderlands 3 is doing the same here. And if you haven't played any of the Borderlands games, well, first things first, you missed a great chunk of the gaming history. So what it is and how it plays. So Borderlands 3, and well, every Borderlands games, is a shooter RPG that is focused on the loot. So basically it's a looter shooter with an RPG elements, if you want to call it like that. You play as a Vault Hunter and you choose one of 4 classes, or characters rather, because every single class has their own specific character. You're flung into open world and the game is actually first person, and you basically need to, well, go through a campaign. I'm not going to spoil anything, literally anything from the campaign, well, except for very small things. But I'm gonna tell you this right away. The campaign is not great. It's not something that is amazing and will blow your mind. It's okay. It's simply good enough to keep you going. It's not amazing, and Calypso twins are very, very annoying and will always be. But yeah, this game's campaign is nothing amazing. You should not go into this game for this amazing campaign. It's simply not there. The lore is insane. The lore is great. Characters are amazing. Like every single character is insane, especially with the DLCs that we're gonna discuss in a second. But the campaign is, well, nothing special. You basically get a quest and just complete the quests, and usually the quests are very, very similar. Go to that place, kill X amount of enemies, or get these items, or get this, or get X amount of items. Very, very generic RPG thing. But the gunplay and the gameplay makes this game insanely interesting, and all revolves around the same thing that made all the previous Borderlands games insanely good, and it is the weapon loot system. So this game actually uses a procedurally generating weapons, and as developers say, there are billion, yes, billion with the B, different varieties of the guns in this game. So there is a very low chance that 2 players will encounter the same, unless that's a legendary weapon, which are almost all of them handcrafted, and each and every weapon has their own different characteristics and different firing modes. There are a few different manufacturers that gives the guns few different distinct styles, but the weapons themselves, almost all of them, play completely differently. They have different shooting modes, different ammo, different elemental damage, and a lot of them even have an alternative firing modes that completely changes the game. Like for example, in the very beginning of the game, you might get just a pistol which shoots just a regular pistol, but with an alternative fire mode that shoots a barrage of rockets. Or you can get a shotgun that is actually a sniper rifle and can shoot at enemies on very, very large distances while still staying as a shotgun. Or you can get a weapon that shoots one tracker that, well, sticks to enemies, and then shoot a bunch of different other ammo that just goes through this tracker and just killing an enemy with simply just one shot. And there are a bunch of different other things, and there are also skills that every single one of the classes have different of, and you have multiple different skill lines that you can develop. You can also carry multiple weapons, you can also carry shields, multiple different types of grenades, etc, etc, etc. The minute-to-minute gameplay of the game is simply fun and insanely good. And as you go higher and higher in the levels, which this game has a leveling system, you unlock more and more skills. Enemies are becoming more and more powerful, using different tactics, and just shooting the enemies becomes insanely good. And the game also has multiple planets that you can visit, and you are actually unlocking these multiple planets as you go through the game. I guess this is very minor spoiler, but yeah, it's there. You actually go to the multiple different planets. And if you played older games, a lot of older characters are returning in this game, and it's simply just barrage of nostalgia if you play the other Borderlands games. First one, second one, or pre-sequel. you're getting characters from almost all of them. And it's difficult to just talk about this game without spoiling any major mechanics, which you need to experience it yourself. But the game is pretty long because of its extensive loot and pretty long campaign actually, which will take around 40 hours of the base game to actually complete. Plus you have multiple DLCs that you can actually complete. And after you complete the game is not over. You can actually continue killing the enemies and returning to the older bosses to get better loot. And the game also has a mayhem level system that you'll unlock after you complete this game, which is basically additional difficulty levels. And there are, I think, 11 mayhem levels, and with each and every one of them, you unlock a different modifiers for the enemies and for yourself, and just makes game more and more difficult without, well, losing a lot of its fun. And it's very similar to what you have in Diablo, where you actually unlock more and more and more higher difficulty levels. It's the same here, and it just makes game very, very replayable and insanely fun. And with this, you are easily getting 200 or 300 or maybe even 500 hours of the gameplay. And did I say the game has a co-op as well? Yes, you can go through entire campaign of this game with your friends, and up to 4 people can actually play together, and they can join anytime that they want. On PC, it's an online multiplayer only, but on consoles, you can actually play on a split screen, which makes this game basically must play on a console. And playing this game with your friend just makes this game even 10 times better. Well, but it's actually the same for all of the games, but here it just enhances your experience even more. I completed all of the previous Borderlands in a split screen on a console, and I also completed them on a PC as well. And yeah, I can safely say that playing with a friend is much better experience. And you actually heard it right. I purchased the previous games multiple times on multiple different platforms, and I'm actually going to do the same for Borderlands 3 as well. But for now, this review is only for the PC. But now, let's discuss the pricing and DLC. And the same as with the Doom Eternal, here it's not as simple as, well, I wanted it to be. You see, the game has 3 different editions. First is the Standard Edition, which is, well, base Borderlands 3 game. Second is Super Deluxe Edition, which contains the base game and Season 1 Pass, which includes the 4 DLCs, which is the major story DLCs. And there is also Ultimate Edition, which includes everything with the Super Deluxe Edition, plus with the Season 2 DLCs, which does not include a lot of story DLCs, but includes a lot of gameplay DLCs. That enhances Endgame and adds a lot of replayability to the game. And for the first time, I'm going to be talking only about the discounted prices for each and every edition, and I will just advise you which one you should buy. So here are the prices only on their deepest discounts on Steam. So Standard Edition of the game for the Tier 1 discounted prices is $11.99, and for Tier 2 it's for $5.99. Super Deluxe Edition for the discounted prices is $31.99 for Tier 1 countries and $17.99 for Tier 2 countries. And Ultimate Edition for the discounted price is $39.52 for Tier 1 countries and $23.56 for Tier 2 countries. I know, this Ultimate Edition price is weird. Now, which one should you get? If you have never played any of the Borderlands games and you do not have a large budget, go for the base game. You will not go wrong with this. You are gonna have a lot of content, and you are gonna enjoy this game a lot. This is actually one of the must-play games, especially if you're playing on a console and you have a friend to play with on a split screen. Or if you're playing on a PC and you have a friend who owns or willing to own the Borderlands 3 game. Just go and play with co-op, you're gonna have a lot of fun there. Now, as for Super Deluxe and Ultimate Editions, well, you see the price difference is not that large. It's less than $10 between those on both Tier 1 and Tier 2 countries. So if you have a higher budget and if you play the older Borderlands games and want to enjoy Borderlands 3 to its fullest, I would suggest you to go just for an Ultimate Edition. Super Deluxe Edition is great, and it has a lot of the best content of the Borderlands 3, but it lacks some of the content that is required to have an Ultimate Endgame, like the editions that you are getting in Director's Cut. So just go for an Ultimate Edition, plus the price differences are not that big. Yes, the game is expensive. Yes, both Super Deluxe and Ultimate Editions are actually pretty expensive for Tier 1 countries. But with an amount of gameplay that you are getting from here, it's actually worth it. And if you have played previous Borderlands games, you already know what you're getting yourself into. That's why I said that if you're new to the Borderlands, go for the Standard Edition and then think about anything else. And if you are not new, you know exactly what Borderlands is, and yes, you are not gonna regret buying this game. This game is actually much better compared to what it was on release. Even though on release it was pretty good game, but all of the shortcomings that the game has on release has been completely resolved. Except for the Calypso twins, you cannot do anything about them. Overall verdict is this: Borderlands 3 is now an amazing game that is one of the must-own games if you like looter shooters and just want to play the shooter game for really long time. The base game is must get for any newcomers, and the Ultimate Edition is must get for any Borderlands veterans. This game is great whether you play solo or co-op, but trust me, with friends, this game is just 10 times better. Well, this should be it for today. Let me know in the comments down below, which Borderlands have you played? Which one was your first? Was it the first one, second one, or pre-sequel, or it's actually the third one? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.